Okay, I assume we are live. Good evening, everybody, and I hope you're all okay. So tonight, as you know, we've got an interview with the Advance UK candidate for the Gorton and Denton by-election, Nick Buckley. Many of you know that Nick is a friend of mine. We do a lot of work together. This won't be soft soap. You can ask any questions you want. Obviously, keep them polite. I know the audience on this channel is polite anyway, but I do want to make the point that I offered all the candidates a chance to come on the channel this evening, and only 2 parties actually came back to me. To be fair to the Tories, they replied and said, yes, we'll take the interview. I think their candidate's called Charlotte Cadden, I think, ex-retired police officer in Manchester, and they've since, it seems they've bailed out of it. They don't want to do it now. As many of you know, I'm a Reform UK member. I offered them, Matt Goodwin, the chance to come on, and they haven't even bothered to give me the courtesy of a reply to my email, which, to put it politely, I'm not very happy about, but what can you do? All right. So at least Nick is willing to come on, front up, and he's going to answer any questions you've got and some questions from me as well. Okay. So just for the record as well, I did offer it to the Greens and the Labour Party, but neither of them came back. I'm not very surprised by that. Okay. So if you can all welcome Nick, and we'll have a good chat.
Thank you, Ash. Nice introduction. And people need to be coming on these podcasts. This is the new way to communicate with people. You need to be on this sort of media if you're going to hit the average person in the street.
Well, I did make the point to them, you know, how many views, how many millions of views the channel gets a month. I said, you're going to get far more traction with me than you are going on a BBC or something like that these days. But, you know, these people, some of them just live in the dark ages, I'm afraid. But it is what it is. So the first thing I wanted to ask you, if we can get straight into it, is why did you pick Advance UK and why this by-election? You could have waited till the next general election, for example, and see who's in the best position and then picked a party that way.
So as you probably know, I joined Advance I'm doing this all the time. There's that many bloody parties. I'm getting them all mixed up. I joined Reform UK 2 Christmases ago. They were high in the polls. They looked like they wanted change. The wind was beneath their sails. And I thought to myself, right, I need to get involved. I've stood several times now as an independent and thought, I need to join a party. I need the structure. I need the money. I need the support if I'm ever going to have a chance of being elected. And I'd like to be elected because if I can get my hands on some sort of power and some levers of power, I will change things. So I joined Reform, and within 4 months, I was disillusioned and left. I thought, this isn't for me at all. And then I decided I wasn't joining any more parties. I'd had enough. I'm going back to independent. And then people kept saying, you need to look at this new party, Advance UK, started by Ben Habib. So I'd heard of Ben Habib, never met the man, never spoken to the man at that point. And I thought, I'm not going to be one of these people who every month has joined a new party and has joined the latest party, only to be disillusioned and leave and join another party. So I didn't want to join. And then I started to hear more about Advance. I thought, do you know what? It's worth a conversation. I'll invite Ben on my podcast and I'll tell him my 5 priorities and we'll see where it goes to. So he came on my podcast. We had a 1-hour discussion. That's on my YouTube channel, Nick Buckley MBE. And at the end of the conversation, I went, do you know what? Everything you're saying about my 5 points, I completely agree with. I'm going to join at the end of this conversation. So I joined. I then joined that quick. Yeah, it was half an hour after the conversation ended. It was like, I do a lot of reflection. So I'd already realized that I wasn't going to join another party, not because I'd given up on political parties, but because of pride and ego. And I was saying to myself, I'm not joining another party only to leave again. It's going to make me look stupid. And I realized it's all about me. It's not about how I look. It's not about if I fail. It's about the country. So when I spoke to Ben Habib, it was like, do you know what? This is the party for me. So I joined within half an hour of that conversation. And then I was invited to join their college. And their college is a new group attached to the party that's going to be designing policies for the party. And I volunteered to write policies along social lines. So social policy, crime, welfare, antisocial behaviour, homelessness. I'm an expert in those things. I want to write policies on that. Not economics. I can hardly add up. So I don't want to be involved in economics. I talk to you and the Silver Fox about economics. That's where I get my advice from. So I want to do this. I want to talk about the things and design the things I'm good at. And then this by-election, it didn't come out of the blue. We knew this guy was going to go. Andrew Goodwin, Labour MP, former Labour MP from Denton and Gorton, got kicked out of the party a year ago for cracking an unfunny joke, a disrespectful joke, but it was a joke, let's be honest. He said something like, I can't wait for all these old folk in my area to die. It'll be less work.
Not I don't funny. Think he meant it maliciously, did he? But
he didn't mean it the way people are saying he meant it, but it's a very stupid thing to put in a WhatsApp group with 70 people. It only takes one of them to screenshot. But anyway, he got kicked out of the Labour Party, then stood as an independent for a year on 96 grand. And what I reckon happened was Andy Burnham said to him, if you resign and force a by-election, I'm going to stand, I'm going to win, I'm going to be Prime Minister. And then the Prime Minister of the UK owes you a huge favour, Andrew. Would you like to be a Lord? Would you like to come back as an MP? Do you want to sit on a 1 hour a month quango and earn £500,000 a year? Yeah. What would you like, Andrew? Because it's all in the Prime Minister's gift. So that's what happened. Andy Burnham went for his shot, got stopped by Keir Starmer, and then the by-elections. Andy Burnham would have won this seat if he'd have stood for Labour. Hands down, would have won it. I disagree with Andy Burnham, but he's a very popular Labour mayor in Greater Manchester. He would have won it, even with the Labour Party shrinking in the polls. So the by-election came along, and then I got a phone call. I wasn't thinking about standing. I got a phone call from Advance saying the by-elections on, this is your area. You're from Greater Manchester. Have you got any connection to this area? And I went, connection? Born and raised there. I went to school there. My family lived there. I've lived there. So it was like, wow, we want you to stand. Will you stand? So I said, you need to give me a few hours to think about this. So I hung up, thought about it for half an hour, probably less than half an hour, went, of course I've got to stand. It's going to be an uphill struggle. I may not win. But there's no point being in a political party if you're not going to stand in elections.
And you'll never get an area like you've got now where you were actually, like you said, born and bred.
Born and bred in this area. My sibling lives here. My parent lives here. My aunties live here. My cousins live all in the constituency. I lived there for, I'm 57 now. I lived over half my life in the area. I'm now a few miles down the road in Manchester city centre, which is almost in the area. But my primary school's there, my secondary school's there. I base my charity in the area. I used to work with Gorton Police from their police station. I've ran projects, youth projects all over the area, from Denton to Gorton to Longsight to Levenshulme to Burnage. There isn't a better area for me to stand as a local candidate. So I jumped into the race, and here we are now.
So as we know, as a constituency, Gorton and Denton's quite a new one, isn't it? It was only at the last election it was actually formed, weren't it? They've always had their different constituencies, but now being one constituency, that was the first election. It's a tale of, tale of two places, really, isn't it? Because in Gorton you've got 28% Muslim population, something like that.
Yeah.
But in Denton you've got the vast majority is white working class people.
Yeah.
How is your message going down in both areas? Is it more difficult in Gorton, for example, or is it more difficult in Denton for you?
Oh, it's absolutely more difficult in Gorton. The Greens are dominating Gorton. Door knocking, walking down the street, you just see green posters, green posters, green posters, green posters.
Wow.
You see one or two Labour, and you'll see one or two Reform. Hardly. I mean, I may have seen a Reform one, but hardly any. But Greens are dominating Gorton, and it's not just Gorton. We call it Gorton, but it's Gorton, Levenshulme, Burnage, and Longsight. Yeah. It's a much bigger area than people think. Once you cross the border into Denton, and Denton comprises of Denton, Danebank, and Horton Green, that's white working class. Places like Horton Green, we've got Union Jacks on all the flags as you're walking down the street. So we know what sort of areas they are: white, patriotic, British, traditional Labour voter areas. Some of the feedback I've had from residents in Denton has been tremendous. I'd say 50% of all the conversations I've had with people on the streets or at the door where Labour's mentioned, so 50% of the people I talk to who are late, when Labour's mentioned, say something like, oh, the pedo apologists, the pedo lovers, or the pedo party. The word pedo appears almost immediately
I've heard this a lot.
when you discuss the Labour Party. Hardly anybody mentions the Greens. Some people say I'm voting Green, but no one ever wants to talk about the Greens. They want to talk about Labour. The people in Denton are extremely angry at the state of the country and are completely blaming Labour. A little bit unfair because we had 14 years of Tories who did this to begin with. But Tory, they've got over the Tories now. It's purely hatred of the Labour Party. They feel let down, and they feel that Labour Party now is a pedo party, and that's what I'm getting there. In the Gorton side, lots of people straight away say, not voting for you, racist, fascist, not voting for you, we're voting Greens, free Palestine, you want to kill all migrants. So we get a lot of that in the Gorton area. But when we have conversations with the people who are willing to talk, their number one priority is what you'd imagine it to be across the country. And it is, my area's dirty. Litter, fly tipping, dog poo, graffiti. That's what, regardless of colour, race, religion, when you have a conversation with them, that's their number one priority. When you cross the border into Denton, the first thing you notice is, wow, these streets are clean. No one mentions grime in Denton. It's a different council, by the way. It's Tameside Council, where Gorton is Manchester Council. But Tameside Council, whatever they're doing wrong, they're cleaning the streets at a much better level.
I think we've had this chat before. We've said about some of these areas in the country, whether it's Manchester or parts of Liverpool, etc., that have had these Labour MPs for decade after decade. And then you've got the Labour MPs coming out and saying that my constituents live in poverty. I'm like, well, you've been there 40 years, but what have you actually done about it? You know, if anything, you're saying that you're crap. You're blaming yourself. And these people,
these
like
Labour
said,
MPs,
I understand the anger from
these Labour MPs and these Labour councillors have done their job, which is we've got to keep our constituents poor and angry. Because if we can keep them poor and angry, as a Labour Party, we can then blame everybody else and they'll vote for us. It's like, well, you've kept them poor. You've made them angry. It's like, this is all your fault. I was at Hustings the other day where some of the questions was all about what you're going to do to fix this area. And all these people were Labour supporters. And I ended up saying, this area is a mess because you keep voting for the same people. Yeah. Manchester has been Labour for 100 years. And it's like, and you keep looking for excuses to blame other people. It's you for voting these idiots in.
Yeah, if you want change, vote for something different, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
And if they let you down, then vote them out and vote until you get good people. Keep voting the crap out.
The most obvious question that I was going to ask you, but someone's already asked it. Me, as you know, I'm a Reform member. You're an Advanced member. You know, was this one, and it was what I was going to ask you. So, ask him why he's splitting the vote and letting the Greens or Labour in. We'll never forgive them if this happens. So. As a Reform supporter, I would also say you're splitting the vote and giving the chance for the Greens or the Labour Party to get in. So how would you answer that?
That's a good question. I can answer it several ways. The first way is you don't live in the area. How dare you be telling people that live in a different part of the country how they should vote and what options they should have to vote for? In a democracy, you can't have enough choice. So how dare you think that people of Gorton and Denton can't make the right decision for them to vote the best candidate they think is fit to improve their lives, their street, their family, their community? We had this sort of opinion after the referendum. Do you know what? Those people who voted to leave the EU, they were stupid, you know. They didn't have the right information. If only I could have voted on their behalf, they'd have made a better decision. This is called entitlement. This is called disrespecting the voter, to think that you could make a better choice being a voter in that area. Now, when it comes to splitting the vote, there's no such thing as splitting the vote. The vote hasn't happened yet. Each individual in that area haven't cast their vote yet. No one owns these votes. The people, the individual, own their own vote. they will loan it to the person they think is best. So there is no splitting the vote. And for me, let's look at the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, the Greens win by 10 votes. And it happens that Reform UK lose by 10 votes and I have 15 votes. Well, yeah, if my 15 votes would have went to Reform UK, they would have won. Worst case scenario. But do you know what? Maybe the Greens winning isn't such a bad thing. They can't do anything. They'll have 5 MPs instead of 4. But maybe the Greens having a good show in this area wakes the country up. Maybe it wakes people up who couldn't be asked voting and they go, oh, maybe I need to start voting because look what happens when I don't vote. And if Reform win, so what? Reform have 9 MPs instead of 8 MPs. Reform can't even sign and be part of Rupert Lowe's grooming gang inquiry. They've ignored Rupert Lowe's inquiry. They've not even signed the whatever it's called to push it forward. So what good is 9 Reform MPs compared to 8 Reform MPs? Nothing changes nationally. Whoever wins this race, Labour will still have a supermajority. But what can change is Gorton and Denton. All the other candidates at the moment are all talking about national issues. We're going to stop the boats. We're going to save the NHS. We're going to tax the welfare. And I'm saying to them all, you're all lying. None of you can promise any of these things. Only a government can, and none of you are in government. So stop giving pie in the sky promises. My promises are all local, what I can do and what I know I can do as an MP to improve the area just a little bit. Because there's no point over promising, because we're all sick of politicians who come up with these grand schemes and lie and it never happens and we all get disappointed. I've got 5 points that will improve this area if you live in this area. So I want people of Gorton and Denton to be a bit jealous, not jealous, a little bit selfish. Vote for yourself this time. This isn't a general election. This won't affect the government. This won't affect the country. It only affects where you live. Be a little bit selfish and vote for the best candidate you think is going to improve your area. The splitting the vote narrative is exactly what the Tories said to Reform for years and years. Didn't stop Reform, and now Reform are top of the pile. So you can't have criticisms of your party where you denied it to be true and then use the same things against the next party that's coming along. And Reform are using this attack line because it's a Tory attack line. And surprisingly, Reform are full of Tories. Of course, they're using that attack line.
Do you know my opinion? I think I made a video on this, and actually, I lost quite a few subscribers off it because as soon as you talk about Ben Habib or Rupert Lowe, especially Rupert Lowe, you lose subscribers on YouTube. Some people see him as some sort of god. I don't know.
I've lost 250 subscribers off YouTube since I launched my campaign.
Yeah, I can believe it. Honestly, I've had abuse from people that support Advance, people that support Restore. Even people that support Reform, who I'm a member of, I've had abuse from. I think people on the right of politics, I said this the other day, I'll say it again, I'll probably lose subscribers. We need to grow the hell up and start working together because what's going to happen is at the next election, you're going to cancel somebody else out. Reform are going to cancel others out and whatever in different areas where different parties can win. And the left will mobilise themselves to tactically vote. And the left are very good at that sort of thing. They're far better than we are on the right of politics, like working together or holding their noses and voting for somebody they didn't really want to vote for, but they will just to keep the Tories out or keep Reform out or anybody out. And that's what's going to happen if we're not careful at the next election. And you end up with the coalition of hell, as I called it, with the Lib Dems, the Greens, the Labour Party. Just imagine the damage that would be done.
We need to ensure that doesn't happen, and you're right. We need a coalition of the willing around the right.
Oh, don't use Starmer's phrase, coalition of the willing. God, you'll never win a seat. There is a topic I wanted to get on. It's a bit of a sensitive topic, but people are asking about it anyway. So some more politely than others, but I'll read them out anyway. So there's minks here. I'll get the comments out and then I'll let you respond.
Sure.
So. Ask why he studies women's bodies. Innocent women who have no idea he is doing that. Somebody else has put, can you ask about the bizarre article Nick wrote, which Guido Fawkes tweeted yesterday, please. And somebody else has put, English women are whores. Is that how it goes, Nick? So I personally know your views on this, and it's not as cut and dry as what Guido made out and stuff. So maybe you'd like to go into what you've actually said and what the facts are.
Sure. So there's two stories here. So let's talk about English women are whores, and then we'll get to the Guido folks. I expected better from Guido folks, actually. They've let themselves down, but I'll get to that. So English women are whores. I didn't say that. I said many English women are whores. I didn't say all English women are whores. And I was commenting to an article about OnlyFans. I can't remember which article it was now. I've commented on lots of articles about OnlyFans, and I've said stuff like this lots of times. It's not like I'm not remembering which article. I've talked about this dozens and dozens of times. So it's about OnlyFans. So let's say it was about Bonnie Blue sleeping with 1,000 men in 24 hours. National newspapers every week advertise a story about OnlyFans. This girl was a secretary. This girl stacked shelves at Tesco's. This girl was a police officer. That was one of the stories. And now they've turned to OnlyFans and they're making 20,000, £30,000 a week. Isn't that great? You go, girl power. And I'm commenting on that going, no, they're not OnlyFans models. They're prostitutes. Harsher word, they're whores. We need to start being honest with people. Just like I don't accept that a man in a dress with some lipstick is a woman. No, he's not. He's a man. So I'm not going to be lied to. And I'm not going to be lied to about OnlyFans. So those comments were about OnlyFans models. Me talking about how we're over-sexualizing girls and over-sexualizing young women. And we're promoting this sort of behavior. And we're promoting prostitution. 20, 30 years ago, Ash, we'd have been having this conversation about me getting into trouble. And the conversation would have been, Nick, did you use prostitutes that day? Because that's what you're being at. Did you use prostitutes? And I would have been attacked for that. Roll on 30 years, we've fallen that low that now I'm allowed to use prostitutes if I wanted, as long as I don't say we shouldn't be promoting prostitution to young women. Now I'm in trouble for that. We keep falling lower and lower. And let me make it perfectly clear to everybody. I am against pornography. Even though I've watched pornography, I am against it because it damages people. It damages women. I'm against prostitution, even though people use prostitutes, even though I don't necessarily blame the women or think the women are evil. I'm against homelessness. I don't hate homeless people. I'm against cancer. I don't hate cancer patients. I'm against prostitution. I don't hate prostitutes. I want better for them. I want them to have better lives. I don't want them suffering from mental health, being abused, cutting themselves, taking their own lives, because that's what happens. I don't want your children or other people watching this, their children or their grandchildren being talked into being prostitutes. I don't want it. And if that makes me a bad person, if that makes me a sexist pig, if that makes me misogynist, I don't care, because I'm right. I've always been right on this, and I'll always remain to be right. I've spent my whole career. I've spent my whole career protecting women, protecting young women, protecting girls. And for the sake of convenience, I'm not going to start clapping and going, woo, woo, go girl, prostitute. I'm not doing it. And if you hate me for that, I don't care. It just means you're a bad parent. It just means you're a bad citizen. It means you don't care about young women and girls in our society. It means you would rather them damage their lives, and you're using it as a political football to attack me, because all the grief I'm getting is off reform supporters. Only a tiny minority of reform supporters, because most reform supporters are decent, patriotic people. I've met thousands of them. They're great, but a tiny percentage are mental, just like you get in all political parties. They're willing to sell their young women down the road to have a go at me. We've done this before. This is why we allowed the grooming gang scandal to go on, because it's politically convenient, because people was willing to sell young girls down the river because they got votes for it. And that's exactly the attacks on me now. We're quite willing to women to be prostitutes. We're quite willing young girls to be over-sexualized and ruin their lives, as long as we can damage Nick, as long as we can get some votes off Nick for our party. And I'm like, I don't care what you think about me. I'll always protect children and young girls. I don't care. The second point is Guido Fawkes. I've lost a bit of respect for Guido Fawkes. They should have highlighted this article. Of course, I'm not saying they shouldn't have done, but they didn't print the full article. They printed bits of it. So I wrote an article about 3 years ago, maybe about 3 years ago. I can't remember now. It was satirical. It was meant to be a little bit comedic, and it was about two important topics. It was about over sexualization of young women, them doing it to themselves, over sexualizing themselves because society promotes it to them. But it was also about male sexual abuse and how no one takes it seriously, no one looks at it, and you're laughed at if you complain about male sexual abuse. I wrote a satirical article about how women are, and it was all based on facts, but I did it in a manner to try to make people go, oh, that's a bit, and I did it on purpose. And I talked about things like, here's a true story. When I worked for the council, there was many times when I worked for the council, on my computer, I had to move my computer a couple of inches one way or the other, because if I didn't, I was staring down the top of a colleague, a blouse, or I was looking at someone's legs with a short skirt, and I'm saying to myself, shit, I don't want to be facing this way, because if my eyes wander and she looks up at the same time, that's sexual harassment. So there's times I physically moved my desk and my computer so I didn't have to look. You could class that as a form of sexual abuse against me. That's intimidating. That had me on edge. Now, I did all this in a comical manner to raise the issue. In part of the article, I talk about women walking down the street, you know, in half naked, stuff like that, and men crashing their cars, looking at them, which happens. I know men who have done that. And then I say, but I would never do that because I've got too much respect for the automobile. I would never walk down the street half naked so women would crash their cars. As if anybody wants to look at me after. I mean, nobody would do. So the whole article was a serious topic, but I was trying to take the piss a little bit to make people understand what I was getting at. And all Guido Fawkes did was take sections of it and report on that. If you read the whole thing, you'd have gone, you may not have found it funny, but you'd have gone, oh, that's a piss take. That's not very funny. Or that's a piss take. That's hilarious. Whatever your judgment, but you'd have said, that's a piss take.
I was a bit disappointed with Guido because I had looked at the article and I understood what you meant. I think we disagree with a few things on this. So I absolutely agree about the OnlyFans thing, by the way. But I'm quite pro-choice. So if people over a certain age, women or anybody else, wants to start doing that with their bodies, then it's up to them, I suppose. As far as I'm concerned.
Let me jump in there. So not once have I ever said we should pass laws against prostitution. Never said that, because sort of with you, we're never going to stop prostitution. That wasn't the issue. My issue was, as a society, we're promoting it as a valid career.
Yeah,
that's the point I was trying to make. We're promoting this. We're not looking down upon it. There's no social shame. We're physically promoting it to young women. That's the point.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. It shouldn't be. Yeah, I think that's the right way of putting it. You shouldn't really want to come out of school like any person should want to come out, I suppose, and go, right, I've got a career choice in mind, whether that, you know, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, and whatever stuff, like whatever you want to be. But yeah, to come out and say I want to go on OnlyFans, which is what is happening. You are right about that. It is happening, and girls are being sexualized at a younger age.
There was a girl online the other day being interviewed. She was either 10 or 11. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, because you cannot always tell.
No.
But this 10, 11 girl was being interviewed, and she was saying she wants to be an OnlyFans model when she grows up. That can't be right.
No, that can't be right. That's shocking. 10 or 11 years old. I mean, what I don't want to just blame the parents. It's not that easy. You got to blame society as a whole. Yeah.
Again, I'm not blaming the parents. I'm blaming society. We're promoting it as a society.
No, but I'd like to know what the parents are saying to her to discourage that sort of thing. So where do you stand on sex work as a whole? Like, the Greens made a big mistake recently. I don't think they even realise it. But they said we'd make sex working legal. I'm like, on one of their leaflets, I got sent a leaflet. I'm like, well, it is legal. It's actually not illegal to be a sex worker in this country.
No,
it's illegal. It's illegal to stand on street corners and sell yourself. That's illegal. Soliciting's illegal. But being a sex worker is not. If I had my way, and this won't be a popular view, I'd actually have an Amsterdam type red light district area for the record, I've never actually used a prostitute, but I know I've watched documentaries on that thing, and they've got panic buttons, they've got showers, they're safe. You go to, I don't know, an area of Manchester or even Preston or other places, you can find a red light district, and you can find girls there that are skinny, malnourished, being controlled by pimps, simply doing what they have to do that night to get their next fix, the next injection of whatever they're hooked on at that time. And surely they're a lot safer in an Amsterdam type environment than what they would be like over here in certain places. So
I've spent over many years, on many occasions, I've worked with female prostitutes and I've worked with male prostitutes. Not for years and years, but over many years, on many occasions, I've actually worked with those two groups. I'm no expert in this, but I know a hell of a lot more than the average person. I wouldn't make prostitution illegal, because all it would do is drive it underground, and they would be more susceptible to violence, to pimps and things like that. But that is different to promoting it. I have worked with charities who work with prostitutes. My charity worked with male prostitutes at one point, to try to get them help and support to move them out of that lifestyle, to overcome historic child abuse, overcome drug issues, alcohol issues and things like that. I want to support these people to have a better life. What I don't want to do is make it easy for them to have that life. So I'm not sure where I stand with legalized brothels and things. I see the benefits of it, but I'd have to do a lot more reading about would it encourage more people to go down that path? I don't know. I don't have all the answers on that. But we need to be careful that our actions then don't encourage more people to go down that path. I don't want any of us to be prostitutes. That doesn't mean we arrest you and lock you up because you are a prostitute, because sometimes that's the only solution you can see out of your financial problem there and then. So I'm not sure where I stand on that. No. But the whole issue for me is we shouldn't be promoting it. And if people find themselves in prostitution, we should be offering them help and support to move out of that life. It's a very damaging lifestyle. It really rips the heart and the souls out of women. It really does. They end up just being empty shells, being abused 5, 6, 10 times a day, 7 days a week. When you look into their eyes and you speak to some of these women, which I have done, and they tell you about their lives, they tell you what they think, you wouldn't want anyone to be in that position. You really wouldn't.
There's people in the comments saying, too much about this topic. It's not campaign stuff and all that. Like, I don't know. You want to be from some of these areas and you want to see how some of these girls end up. And of course, it's not just sometimes not even adults, by the way. It could be all sorts. So you've got to see this sort of thing firsthand sometimes. And Nick has. So I think it actually is really important, given that he set up a charity as well to try and help the youths of these areas. So, but we will.
I'm shocked that someone thinks this isn't a campaigning point. It's not a campaigning point that our society promotes our young women to engage in the sex trade, which ruins their lives.
So Nick is obsessed with this topic. It's too much and, to my mind, a bit odd. Not MP campaign stuff for sure.
Well, the only reason we're talking about it is because of all the attacks I've been subjected to, because I'm against prostitution. That's why it's become. I would never campaign about this normally because it's a niche issue. But when I'm being called a sexist pig, a pervert, a pedo, a misogynist, why are you going about women in prostitution? Well, because I care about them. That's why, and I'm being attacked about it. So people have made this an issue for me. Hence why I'm trying to defend myself.
Yeah, and I get that. To be fair, I think I watched you on Mike Graham, and now I think you've done exactly the same thing. I think you've put your case forward.
Yeah,
good. We will change topics. So what we'll do is, so there we go. Someone giving me a bit of grief. So Ash doing more than 2 minutes. Wow. Let me tell you now, and Nick will tell you this as well. If you run your own YouTube channel and you put X amount of videos out per day, you've got no idea, unless you do it yourself, how many hours a week you put into these things. It is a lot. So when you see a 1.5 minute, 2 minute video 5 times a day, it isn't just 10 minutes working, right, I'm off to the pub. It doesn't work like that, does it, Nick?
No, exactly. Because you've got to know what you're talking about. You've got to edit it. You've got to do the thumbnail. You've got to think about it before you start speaking. It all takes time. And yeah, I mean, for someone to criticize you because you're doing something more than 2 minutes, well, they haven't got a YouTube channel, haven't they? But you're still good enough for them to watch you, though, Ash.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, as long as you keep watching, that's all that concerns me. This is an interesting topic, this one. I wanted to get onto this a little bit. So what do you guys think of Restore Britain? I'll be honest with you, I could get booted out of Reform for this. But I am a member of Restore, and I was since it was founded. I joined Restore straight away, and I'm a member of Reform. But at the time, Restore wasn't a political party, so that was fine. So where do you? And I'm a fan of Rupert Law, by the way, despite what people say. Where do you stand on this?
Let me tell you what I know first, and then we'll talk about what I think. What I know is Rupert Law by far is the best MP in the chamber. By head and shoulders, he's the best MP. The work he's done, dragging information out of the civil service, holding people to account as an independent with no help, no support. He is the template of how the other 649 MPs should behave and should do. He's a star in my eyes, Rupert Law. This came out of the blue. No one saw this coming, turning Restore into a political party. I haven't given it that much thought because I'm in the middle of an election campaign. I hope, I like Restore. I love Rupert Law. I want Advance and Restore to merge, to come to some sort of agreement. We can't be each other's throats. We can't be competition with each other. We can't have that. How that's going to pan out over the next couple of weeks, next month, I've got no idea. I would like, and many Restore supporters have contacted me saying, we're supporting you in this election. And so they should, because Restore are not standing. So I'm not sure how it's going to pan out, but I like Rupert Law. I like what he stands for. I just hope some accommodation can be made between Advance and Restore.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not sure where I stand. I mean, there will come a point now where I'm going to have to leave Restore or leave Reform, because you can't be a member of two political parties. So I'm going to have to decide which one. And if I'm honest with you, I'm probably going to stick with Reform. Now, I think, some of the polling as well doesn't convince me that. I'm not saying Rupert, again, people chill. I'm not having to go at Rupert Law, but polling from JL Partners showed that only 8% of the country knows who Rupert Law is. And that's because obviously most of the country aren't nerds like you and me. They're normal people. They do normal things. They don't watch politics all the time. But then you have to remember, less than 8% of the population knew who Keir Starmer was before he became Prime Minister. Yes, that is true. That's a good point. That. So yeah, there is a chance. I don't know where I stand on it. You've got plenty of time to see what goes on, to see what Restore are about, to see how Reform are doing. They're not even registered yet with the Electoral Commission. You've got several months to assess both camps and then see what you're going to do. No one needs to make a quick decision on this. No, they don't. But if you're going to get involved, you need to make a decision, don't you? And that's what it is. I mean, I'd be very surprised if I left Reform. I've said that. I said it on video the other day. So I can't see anything making me leave. It would take a huge scandal or something to come out of the closet, some skeleton in the closet that made me think, God, these people are vile. That I'd have to leave. But what are you hearing the latest? I'll tell you what I've heard first, and you can tell me if I'm talking crap. So about this Restore Advance merger that was going to take place, or alleged merger that was going to take place. I'm hearing that Rupert Law isn't willing to budge, and he said to Ben Habib, either you join me or we don't merge together at all. How far off the mark am I? I've not been involved in those conversations, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'll tell you what I do think. I think a out-and-out straight merger doesn't look like it's going to happen. Otherwise, they'd be talking about it now. I think there's intense negotiations going on. What those conversations entail, I do not know. But I think we won't get to the end of anything for weeks, if not months. So it's a wait and see. Right, okay. So no one really knows at the moment what's happening. Yeah. I did hear Ben on a couple of interviews this week, and he didn't seem to know that much himself about what. I don't think negotiations have got very far by the sounds of it. So I'd agree with you there. Yeah. It doesn't look like there's going to be no quick merger.
where,
No.
oh, great, we wanted this and we knew this was happening, and there we go. That's not going to happen. But something has to happen in the next few months to bring these two parties together. Has to.
Like I said before, something has to, in my opinion, unite the right. The party you're standing for is obviously what members? What it's about 40,000 members they've got now, something around there.
Yeah, it's over 40,000 now.
Over 40,000. So obviously, we all know the bigger parties like Reform are now swimming in money. The Tories have got plenty of money. Labour, I know that they're not getting much money coming in now, but they've still got a few quid in the bank. They've all got the resources to get hundreds, if not thousands, of activists out there, get door knocking, delivering leaflets, all the rest of it. What support have you managed to get from Advance, if any, or are you sort of a one-man band, if you will, going around the constituency?
To be fair, I've been extremely happy and impressed with the support I've got. So for this by-election, money's not an object. We've got to make sure it's under the legal limit. Of course we do. Yeah. But I've got a full budget. There's no issues there. I've got close to 50 to 70 volunteers working on the streets, leafleting door, not 70 per day, but we've got a pool of 70 coming out different days, more at weekends, stuff like that. They've paid for, we've got an ad van driving around the estates, a digital ad van. We've got an AI company making videos for me. We've had professional videos made, leaflets, gazebos. So there's nothing I've asked for that the answer has been no. In fact, most of the stuff we've got, I didn't even ask for. It's just been provided straight away. So it's easy to fund a by-election. It's one. It's not funding 650
No, that's true.
seats. Yeah. So I'm not saying we've got that much money to do this there. But we're a brand new party. We only got registered 2 months ago. This is our first proper election. They're taking it seriously. I've got a campaign manager. I've got a team. I've got paid staff working on this. So it's all looking good. We're hoping to finish, a decent position, if not win. I play to win, but I'm not a fool. We're not one of the favourites. We're currently at 4th place, but there's a week to go. Everything's to play for. So we will see what happens on election day. But as a new party, if I do well here, more money will flow into the party. So don't forget, 4 or 5 years ago, Reform were nobody's. Hardly any money. Richard Tice was funding everything personally. Great for him. He funded my Mayoral campaign 5 years ago. But money starts coming in. The better you do, the more people go, oh, I might get on board with that. That attracts more attention, more money. If there's an election this year, we're probably not ready. We're ready to put candidates out, but we're not ready as a political party. But if the election's 2-3 years from now, then we'll be ready by then.
What's a credible result then? What would Advance UK? What you and Ben Habib sit down next Friday, and you go, we did all right there. We didn't win, but we did all right. What's a credible result if you don't win?
So my bottom line is 4th place.
Okay.
If I come under Reform, Greens, and Labour, but I beat the Tories, the Greens, the SDP, 4th place is my minimum, because that's where I am at the moment, according to the bookies. I'm 4th place. So that is my baseline. If I can beat one of those 3 big parties, I mean, that will say something across the country. And this election could be won by any of the top 3. And on a good day, with Reform making a mistake, I can maybe have a chance. So the left-wing vote is split between the Greens and Labour, and Reform think they own the right-wing vote. I'm doing better and better as every day goes by. My campaign started later than theirs, but it's taking off. I've also got a little bit of name recognition in the area. People know me from other stuff. I've got the best backstory out of all the candidates. I'm the only local candidate. So things are beginning to take off for me. But if with a bit of luck and a mistake on Reform's part, I might just beat them. Who knows? They've thrown everything at this. Absolutely. They're spending £100,000 on this. They're throwing everything at it. So at the moment, the top 3, who you expect, I'm 4th. Bit of luck. You never know. Someone's going to win this on 23%.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think the turnout will be quite good, but the vote's going to be that split that, yeah, 20 odd percent might just win it. I think you're right there. I was thinking around 25, 26 myself. It'll be enough to win the seat. I've been looking at the betting odds from Ladbrokes and various other places and the polling. And to be honest with you, I don't think they've got any idea who's going to win it. No. I think it's very, very close. I've seen polling that has Labour favourites to win it. I've seen it where they've got the Greens favourites to win it, Reform favourites to win it. I've seen yours as where you've been right down, say, and in the other category, I've seen you in third. I've seen you in fourth place. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd obviously, from a personal point of view, I'd like to see Reform win it, but I'm not confident they will, and I don't want this to happen. But if I had to predict something now and stick a tenner on it, it might be Labour keeping it. Because it's going to be the vote's going to be that split all over the place. They might just keep it by default.
Let me tell you what I'm picking up on the ground. So here's a news report from Nick Buckley on the ground in Gorton and Denton. Let me tell you what I'm seeing and feeling and speaking to hundreds and hundreds of people. So it's a tale of two halves. So the Gorton half, the Greens are doing very well. Loads of posters everywhere. But I'm speaking to people who are telling me that they're former Labour voters, and in a million years they're never voting Green. They're not voting for an Islamic party, so they're not voting Green. And I call them shy voters now, shy Labour voters, because they're saying to me, "I'm not telling anybody, but I'm going to vote Labour," because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed, but they're not going to vote Greens. And then on the other half, the Denton side, it's Reform posters everywhere, but I'm meeting lots of people who not lots. What sort of percentage can I put on this? 50% of people I personally speak to who say they're going to vote Reform at the end of the conversation tell me they've changed their mind. They're voting for me. That's about 50% of the people I speak to, because they don't know I exist. They don't know I'm local. They don't know my background. So the more they hear about me, the more they go, "Oh, I didn't know there was an option. I thought it was Reform or Labour or Greens." And of course, I'm never voting Greens, and I hate Labour. And there's many people who are telling me they're not voting because they can't stand Labour, Greens, and for some reason they can't stand Reform either. Nigel Farage is Marmite. I like Nigel Farage, by the way, but you either love him or you hate him. And a lot of people are saying we're not voting for Reform because I can't stand Nigel Farage. So it's up in the air. I don't think there's been a by-election like this ever in my lifetime where the three top parties could win it, and outside it is chipping away their lead as well. It'll be very interesting on the evening of the election to see exactly what's going on. But I agree with you. Greens may win, but they're not going to do as well as you think. Labour could also win, and they're going to do better than most people think. Reform, for me, are an unknown quantity. They're going to sweep up some of the right-wing vote, but I'm not sure how much of that they're going to get. And I'm not sure about turnout. Talking to people on the ground, many people are sick of this by-election. It's like, I'm sick of you all. I'm sick of you knocking on my door. We've gone to doors with signs on it saying no more Reform leaflets, please, because they must have had that many Reform, because they've got a great ground game going on Reform, but people are sick of Reform leaflets. So I think turnout isn't going to be that good.
You think these people campaigning, you lot all campaigning all the time, knocking everyone's door all the time, is just pissing them off, basically. They're going to say, "I'm not voting for any of you, get stuffed."
Yeah, we don't see you from one decade to another. And suddenly you guys think you're taking my vote. I'm sick of all. That's really what I'm getting. I'm sick of all of yous.
I got a lot of that on a much smaller scale than you. It takes a lot of balls to do. But some of these questions, by the way, are really good, and some of them are a bit disrespectful, so I won't put them up. But I know you'll take anything, but it takes a lot of work. Believe me, it takes a lot of guts as well to put your head above the parapet like this. I've never stood for Parliament. I stood for the council once, and dear God, was it hard. I only had to cover about 3,000 houses, something like that. And good God, is it hard work trying to get around an area, leafleting, taking shit off people on the doorsteps. It's part of the course. You have to put up with it. But you should never, what's the word? mock somebody, should we say, for their beliefs and what they're standing for, unless you've done it yourself. And then you'll find out just how difficult it is to stand. Even like I said, even if me in local elections or you, it's far bigger what you're doing. It's very, very difficult indeed.
Exactly. And everyone should have the right to stand. It doesn't matter if you agree with them or not. In a democracy, we all have a right to stand up, stand for election and say, this is what I stand for. Vote for me or don't vote for me. We need to give people choice.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a democracy. And feel free to ask some of the disrespectful questions. I really don't mind, because even those people deserve an answer.
I think some of them are just repeating from before. So
Okay.
Topics we've been over already. So otherwise, I would. Can you ask? I'll ask this question. Wheel of Time, but I don't think Nick really cares. Ask Nick if he believes the rumor that Farage is lining up Jenrick as his successor. If I was, I'd say no. If I was putting money on that,
I wouldn't. I don't believe that. I think Jenrick and Suella have made a huge mistake joining Reform. I think the second they step out of line, they're going to be kicked out of the party, and that's the end of their political career. Farage has played a blinder here. He's taken his two biggest threats from the party that's a threat. He's invited them into his party. They can never rejoin the Tory party. They're under his beck and command now. And the second he dismisses them, that's the end of their political career. They're basically hostages now.
Yeah, they are. Like you said, if they put a foot wrong, that's it. He says, see you later. And their political careers are down the swanny, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's this? If you could win, then your point might stand, but you cannot. Anybody can win. You can never say never. We've had lots of shocks in the past. Who knows? Everybody thought Miliband was going to win his election. Everybody thought Gordon Brown was going to win his election. Who was the other one? Was it Ben who was going to win his election as well? Ended up falling ass over tit somewhere, didn't he? On somewhere. Yeah. And that cost him a few votes.
And the point is there, you don't stand for election if you're guaranteed to win. Farage took 8 times to become an MP. Just because something's difficult and just because you fail many times, it doesn't mean you give up. It means you brush yourself down, you try to learn from your mistakes, you try to gain some knowledge, and you go for it again. Just because I may think I'm going to lose, it doesn't mean I shouldn't stand in the first place. Only cowards won't stand if they're only guaranteed to win. Everybody else has to take the rough and tumble.
That's it. I'm with you in a way. I'll be disappointed if, like I said before, if Reform don't win this, and it's then yourself and the Tories, whatever. Like I did a video, probably wrongly, like you won't agree with it, but I said the Tories should stand aside. Just give it to Reform. You know, they're polling at 5%. Get out of the way and give those votes to Reform UK.
Why? What changes if they do?
Because I just want to see Starmer gone. That's essentially what I want to see. And I'm not saying that this one by-election is going to get rid of Starmer. And you're correct. It's not going to change the landscape of Parliament very much. Labour have got 400 MPs. Reform UK have got 8. What's 9? What's 10 going to make a difference? I get all that. But I think it's just another nail in the coffin of Starmer. And that's my ultimate aim at the moment.
How about we go back? We go back 18 months to the general election. If Reform hadn't stood, we wouldn't have a Labour government. So we can use that argument in hindsight.
Yeah, we can.
And I'm glad Reform stood. Because look at where Reform are now. Because they stood, put their head above the parapet, convinced the public. So splitting the vote is for me is lazy propaganda. Political parties stand to win votes. And if Reform don't win this by-election, let's say they don't win it, well, who's to blame? Reform are to blame for not being able to sell their message to more people. Let's stop looking at excuses about why political parties don't win elections. They need to be better.
I think it's not. If you look at this election, I think Reform have got everything to lose and actually nothing to gain. And I think Labour have got everything to gain and nothing to lose, in a way. That's the way I see this election going at the moment. If Reform win it, people are going to say, well, so you should. You're top of the polls. You've got a well-known candidate in Matt Goodwin, like him or not. You've got a well-known candidate.
I've had so much feedback on the street of people not voting Reform because of Matt Goodwin, not because I don't like him and not because I don't agree with him, because he's a Southerner. The amount of people have said to me, I'm not voting for reform because they've bust someone up here, doesn't know us, is not a northerner, is not. So I think he's the wrong candidate. I think they should have picked someone more local, and I think they'd be doing better if they did.
What's his connection? He has got a connection to the area, though, hasn't he? Family connection.
He delivered pizzas. Well? He delivered pizzas once in Denton when he was a student in Salford. He actually said that live on air.
Oh, Salford, was it? Right.
Yeah, he went to Salford Uni.
Right. Okay.
And he delivered pizzas in Denton. It's like, that's convenient. You did something that no one can ever prove you ever did. Yeah, nice one, Matt.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And you can tell he's not from up north. Look at the pictures of him walking around the streets delivering leaflets. He's always got a gloves and scarf on.
Oh, yeah.
It's not cold up here at the moment, you big southern softy. So you can tell he's not from up here.
No. Yeah, there is that. Are you hanging on to reform just to keep subscribers? Surely Integrity's got an I at the end. No, I'm not. And if you've been watching me for quite a while, you'd know this is my second channel because my first one got hacked. And I've been doing this since reform. They weren't even a party, really. They were a party, weren't they? But they weren't polling anything. Yeah. So, no, I don't do it just to hang on to subscribers. But thanks for the question.
And unlike many people, Ash, you tell people that you're a reform supporter, remember. So then people can make judgments on that depending on what you say. You're not one of these who pretends to be neutral, but really you're a reform member and supporter. You tell people up front, they can bake that in to your conversations, to what you say then. So absolutely fine.
Well, so I always say this. You look at, I don't know, Sky, ITV, Channel 4, all the rest, whatever. They're all biased towards Labour or the Greens or whatever. It's just that they're not allowed to tell you, or they don't want to tell you that they're biased. At least when you come on YouTube, you watch me, you're watching a reform member. They watch you, they're watching somebody who's an Advanced UK member. Yeah. If they want to go and watch, I don't know, communism, go and watch Novara Media. They're on YouTube. At least you can take your pick and you know what these people, what point of view they're coming from. So, YouTube's, in a way, it's far more honest than any of these con merchants in the mainstream media, because you can take your pick. And there's literally hundreds of options out there. You can pick, I suppose you can find a video on anything you pretty much want, really. Yeah. Within the law. We've only got a couple of minutes left, all right? But I'll just see if there's any more last-minute questions coming up. I'm not going to put that one out. What's this one? The Greens polling shows how retarded something. The Greens have actually started going back.
Don't use the word retarded. I've been told so many times. Don't use the word retarded.
Somebody else did. It weren't just you. Somebody else got in trouble for that as well. I can't think who it was. It might be Ben, actually.
I didn't get into trouble because they said don't use the word retarded. I said okay, retard.
That's it. Someone said his parents are from Manchester. Is that not true then?
His grandparents.
Oh, is it grandparents?
Were from there. His parents worked here for a tiny bit when he was a baby, but they got divorced. And then he moved down south at 4 or something and was raised down south, but came to Salford every now and again to visit his dad.
Right, okay.
Anyone can claim at some level I've got a connection to an area. Of course they can. But unless you say I was born there, raised there, went to school there, owned a house there, my siblings live there, my aunties live there, my cousins live there, my parents live there. Unless you can say that, I would dispute that you're really local. Purely a question from my selfish point of view. What have you seen about? Have you seen many Labour activists out and about? I've heard something from within the party, some along the lines of what you said before. Some MPs are saying they're actually going to doorsteps and being called pedo sympathisers and things like that. And I've also been told they're struggling to get activists out on the street. Firstly, their candidate, I know she's lived there 30 years, but she's Greek. All right. So people aren't very happy about that. A lot of people wanted Andy Burnham, of course, as you mentioned before. And some actually wanted the leader of Greater Manchester Council, whatever it is, Manchester City Council. So they didn't really get the candidate they wanted. So I've heard that these people aren't really willing to go out and campaign for Starmer at the moment. Have you seen many out and about? Is a lot? Usually you'd see more Labour than any other party. Haven't seen one Labour canvasser. No one delivering leaflets for Labour. I've seen the Greens. I walked past a cafe the other day and Hannah, the candidate, and Zach Polanski were having a coffee in a little coffee shop. I walked past, saw them through the window. Right. I've seen Reform out and about, and I've seen the SDP out and about. I've not seen one Labour councillor, leaflet deliverer. I've not seen them walking around with billboards. I've seen some Labour posters in windows, of only a few in the Gorton side, but no, there's no one Labour walking the streets, because they know they've already baked in they've lost. That's why the leader of Manchester Council didn't want to stand, because she knows she can't win. So why waste my reputation on a campaign I can't win?
Yeah.
So the person who's standing is a nobody councillor from Burnage. Nobody else wanted it. So she's basically a paper candidate, which means she puts her name out there to get favour with the party. So they'll look upon her favourably when a better seat comes up. They may put her forward, because they've done her a favour standing now. She's
from the outskirts, isn't she? She's not from Chorlton.
No, from Burnage. So her area borders this area.
No, she's a councillor for. It's not Burnage, is it?
Burnage.
Sure?
I think you're thinking of the Green Party candidate. She's from Hale.
She's from Hale, yeah.
Yeah, she's from the richest part of Greater Manchester. She's from where the footballers live.
Yeah, she is. And she's also quoted as saying that she was glad to leave the place because it's full of money laundering takeaways or something like that.
Yeah.
Whalley Range, that's where her Labour association is.
Right. So I think that probably includes parts of Burnage, just like Gorton. Okay. So I think Burnage has been chopped in half. I think half of it goes to Whalley Range, half of it's in Gorton. Even if it's not next door, it's very close to Gorton.
Right. Well, I think on that hour mark, we will call it a day. But I do want to thank you for coming on, Nick. As I said to everyone watching this, well, most of the questions were respectful anyway. One or two unsavoury ones, but Nick was happy to take anything anyway. But just remember, it is very difficult standing for office and doing all these interviews. And when he's not doing interviews like this, he's out on the street pounding the beat and delivering leaflets, etc. So it is very, very hard work. So I'm really grateful that you came on. And I'm also very disappointed. Like I said, I'll reiterate, the Tories have backed out of doing it. The Greens didn't bother doing it. Reform haven't bothered doing it. All these other parties have chickened out of doing interviews, proper interviews, not soft soap ones with the MSN on YouTube. So I'm really grateful, Nick. Thanks for coming on, and I wish you all the best. And I'll be watching the result keenly next Thursday.
Well, and if I win, I'll come straight back on your channel. How about that?
Do definitely live from the live from the count, definitely. Yeah. All right, Nick. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. You got any last words you want to put out there just before you go?
Just to say to everybody listening, always hold politicians to account. Always give politicians a hard time, because most of the time they're lying to you. I could be lying to you, but you only find that out when you hold them to account and you drill them and you drag the information out of them. Never go soft on politicians because they work for you. Make sure you get the information from them and make sure they do as they're told once you elect them.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. As I said, good luck with the campaign. I'll speak to you soon, no doubt. And for everybody else, I'll speak to you all soon as well on the channel. Thank you very much.